start for the day. How are you guys? I'm actually partially asleep because I just took a good 2 hour something nap, and I needed it because when I got up this morning, instead of sleeping in a little bit more, I got ready to go because we had a rally for Sunday today, which I'll talk about it in a minute. And I did not know. Did any of y'all see the Saint Sophia live stream I did today? I don't know if you had fun watching that, but I had fun being around the great, wonderful, beautiful energy of my Ukrainian friends, including some people that literally it wasn't just a big crowd of strangers there. I got to see some people that, in fact, I got to see some people that. Well, hold on a minute. We'll let some people sign in here because we still have people joining. I got to see some people that were really, really precious to me. Terrell Starr was there. I don't know if y'all know Terrell, but I was glad to see Terrell. My friend Julian, who's an Australian, journalist, reporter, friend of Ukraine, diaspora bro, all of that. And for those who did not see it, I will have video both. I will actually publish the live stream. I think it went into reserve mode here on the account. And then all the stuff from the camera is currently transferring at 1 hour and 35 minutes left to go. Suka. Anyway. And then the rally, I have a little bit of footage from today's rally. And one of the reasons why I definitely was going to go today to the rally was that it was at St. Michael's Golden Dome Monastery. And, for me, it's a very powerful feeling. If you ever come to Kyiv, first off, all of you should come to Kyiv. All of you. Just come sometimes. You can go to Poland, get into Warsaw or Moldova, and or Romania. You can go to all these places. Mostly the easiest way is go into Warsaw and come on in via train to Kyiv. And when you get here, you will see one of the most amazing parts of what I love about Kyiv is that Saint Sophia and Saint Michael's are a block away from each. Pardon me, about a block away from each other. And that's 1,000 years of history right there. Just right there, heart of the Kievan Rus. And I can tell you that they're beautiful, beautiful structures to see. They're amazing structures to see. One of the things I always sort of laughed at about America's history is that, and because I have a strong emotional solidarity to our First Nation people, is that America's colonial history is, fairly superficial, unfortunately. Some of it's not. If you get in the northeast corner, there's a few things that are not. But otherwise, you should respect the history is yeah. And he took a 15-hour train from Moscow to Kyiv. Well, yeah, that'll be the last time you did that. I hope you don't have to do that again. But Donald Trump Jr., yeah, suka, you can go on to Moscow. Viktor Orban lost. Fuck Viktor Orban. Anyway, I can't wait for this automatic portaling over. Remember, I was telling you, porting over. Remember, I was telling you guys that about the mechanics when I did that little impromptu video last night. I said about the mechanics of the videos that when we talk here, Substack automatically takes the videos, both shorts and the primary video, and sends it over to YouTube. And it didn't really like, or I should say, YouTube really didn't like the "Hey Media-san, go fuck yourself" video. It didn't like that part. So here's a little bit more. "Hey Media-san, go fuck yourself." Donald Trump Jr., go fuck yourself. Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Tucker Carlson, Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio and Donald Trump go to a UFC. I don't know if you've heard this joke. Two jackasses walk into a bar. You go to UFC, and they said they're fucking walking dildo to Pakistan to lose a fucking negotiation. How are you guys feeling? Anyway, it is great. It is great. It's nice to wake up to some fucking good news for once. We had no attacks. I'm just thinking about the fact that Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, does not go to Pakistan to try to negotiate. They didn't even, I don't know if they even, maybe did they send Shitkov? Did I see, tell me or not, because I don't really have these things up. I split my time with my people. uh, I think was Shitkov in the room at least with Walking Dildo. What's his name? J.D. Vance. Wow, what a day! Hold on, I'm gonna let. I'm not. I don't want to pull up another screen because I'm really not interested in a bunch of bright lights in my face. Anyway, what about Mehdi-Hassan, Laura? Oh, I don't know if you heard, but Mehdi-Hassan stuck his foot in his ass the other day. Dared say that Iran was chewed out Zelensky on X and said that Iran is now Ukraine. Really? So we have our own version of Hamas and Hezbollah somewhere? We have a Ukrainian equivalent to the Houthis? Who is that? Is it a hockey team somewhere? I don't know what the equivalent would. Oh, I know what it is. It's when we send Usyk out. When Usyk goes out and goes, bam, 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 bam. Feels like we're sending out the Houthi. I don't know. I have no equivalent. I don't know who the fuck they're talking about. So I took down Mehdi-Hassan the other day because I've had more than enough Iranian drones to fly over my house when they were actually Iranian drones before they were offloaded to Russian making. And Mehdi-Hassan is happy Easter, everybody. Those who are jumping in here. I see Thomas just jumped in. Mehdi-Hassan is, and I'm going to be very clear. Mehdi-Hassan is one of the smartest people you could ever run into. He's got clearly, and I'm going to recognize. I don't like to lie about people just because I don't like them. Donald Trump is an idiot, syphilitic, felon, rapist, con artist, loser at every level. I didn't tell a single lie there. Melania Trump fucked a pedophile on the Lolita Express. His name was Donald, and he said she had a hot ass, and then he married her. I don't have to lie about people. And anyway, so, but Mehdi-Hassan is a very smart guy. And when he's, in those debates with MAGA, he's also one of the things I don't like about him because of it, and I suffer from this a little bit. I have a certain arrogance about me when intellectually when it comes to certain people. Once the argument's going, my brain's going, man, why are we arguing with this gnat of an intellect? And that's what it's like when he's in that, what is it, Jubilee, where it's like one media versus 20 MAGA. I mean, you could stack them up in intelligence, and they finally, like, all 20 of them add to about where he's at, So anyway, so a bunch of losers this week because Viktor Orban appears to have lost. All of that effort. I don't have to write any more fucking articles about Hungary at this point. I can move the fuck on. I love it. I'm very happy to hear that I took a little bit of a nap after a full day of running around. I don't know how many, I don't have my, because I have the phone on for you guys, I don't know how many steps I walked, but, I went to the rally with our Defender families, and then I went to St. Sophia because I did not know that there was a full day event at St. Sophia, and it was awesome. It was incredible. How many people saw it? Put in the space down there if you watched the live stream that I spontaneously did. And the reason why I definitely knew I wasn't prepared is because I have a big, monopod. Usually it's sitting right here next to me. I have a big monopod that I could have just put the phone on or the Osmo on it or something, and I didn't bring it because I was just like, I'm going to go take a few photos, bring my Osmo, talk to the crowd, then I'm going to go see Mama. And my friend Julian's like, well, there's a whole program over at St. Sophia. No. And I walked in, and it was 300 hryvnia to get in, which actually was worth it. I mean, honestly, completely worth it. I went ahead and forked it over. And I walked in, and I got to see Viltsa, if y'all remember my live stream of music, which I will be doing again. Don't worry. My Culture Saturdays are going to return. And if you remember the all-women's vocal choir I've aired, Viltsa, They were there, got to get some big hugs. In fact, I think it's on camera because I just walked right up and go, "Hey, Viltsa," and gave the ladies a good hug. And you'll need to take more naps so we can see more democracy wins. Yes, I took a nap on a train back from Odessa in August 2023 to find that Rudy Giuliani had been arrested on the way back in. I went, I need to do this more often. Anyway, where can we watch it? Laura asks, and I say that I will basically just have to push publish on Substack, because when I left, sometimes I put it in. It'll say like publish now or review before publishing, and it's kind of mixed. If I know everything was perfect in a broadcast with me and a guest, I just push publish. Like with Shaun, I just push publish. I know it's ready to go. I don't want to hesitate. It's on its way. If it's me rambling into the camera or running around getting things done like I did today, I kind of want to see, was the camera footage all jerky, or, I don't know. And I want to review it, and I put it in there. So I will push publish on that. Plus, in the background, I filmed it so on my Osmo, and there's even more footage that you don't have in there. Plus, it's probably a little bit better footage. And we will put that in there. And a few things. Am I a musician? Yes, I am a musician. I've been playing all my life. I play tabla, I play guitar, I'm a sitar player, I have oud, I have tambourines and frame drums from all over the world. And my rambling is fun to watch. I got to see Mama today. Mama ponad use, Mama above all. She was very happy to see the extra kid. But let me get in order. Let me see if I can march through the day in order. Fuck Viktor Orban. Why am I rambling? I am so happy to see that Viktor Orban lost. I love watching these motherfuckers lose. So I'm on my way out to the rally. Now, did you get to see the little video? And Nancy, actually, I think you're the one at fault for this. I'm gonna put you on a spot. Who's watching right now? We have a bunch of good friends. We already have 30 people in here watching. We had I think you were one of the people who requested to see if you could see a little video of me bringing the little peach turnovers to the lady who works at the front desk down here. By the way, I've given up Coca-Cola, and I'm not taking up Fanta. I just happen to have one. And so I made that little video for you, and it was yesterday, and there happened to not be any peach turnovers, but it's Easter. So we had our beautiful Easter cakes at the store, and I picked up one for her. And then I still went by the little shop where I get my peach turnovers for her. It's pretty much the only thing I buy in there. And they didn't have any, as you see in the video. And then I walked in and I said, I'm sorry, Vibachte. But, hold on, you said you need to reboot. The person I'm telling this about a little bit has to reboot. Give it about a half a second, my friends. So I go in the little store. There's no peach turnovers, which is fine for today. They'll be back. And then, I said, that's good. I got the, Easter cake, walked in, and I handed it to the lady downstairs. And she was so happy, and it's the same energy you get every day. But today, when I went to go to the rally, I was on my way out, and I said, hey, Christos Voskres. No, come here. No, I had to go. No, come here. I have to go to the rally. I got to go. Can't stay. Okay. So she literally took over as if my own mom. And I even said, Yak moya mama, to her friend that was sitting there and her daughter. And she's like, here, it's Easter. So she hands me a shot of basically like whiskey or rum or something. I forget what it was. A little shot about yay big, which starting your day like that is not the way you want to start a day. There's only one time I've had, because I don't like drinking. I leave that to everyone else. I'm boring, like last night with the soldier buddies. I'm sitting there drinking a cold Coca-Cola, and everyone else is drinking beers and Jameson and shit like that. Not me. But so she hands that over. It's like, okay, it's with you. Yak moya mama, I have that. And then she's like, here, more food. And she starts putting little cutlets and bread on a piece of cutlets on a piece of bread, and then what else did she hand me? Something else immediately, and she's like, "Here, you have to eat." And it's like the love, the you're supposed to do what I tell you to do. kind of command of her tone is adorable. It means so much. And it's why I've told you guys, when it comes to like the stress that I feel about the war, or even the depression that kicks in a little bit here and there, it's not the people in front of me. Maybe about what's happening to them, but there are not people here that I interact with that give me that kind of like thing. It's Americans that give me that. People that are manipulative, people that are the politicians, the bullshit. But not the people who I live with. And especially for her, she was really great. So I go to the rally, and St. Michael's. Although actually not the technical first rally I ever went to. Technically the first rally I ever went to is I walked into a Mariupol Defender family rally in November 2022. And it was already going on, and I walked in there. I wasn't out there long even. I recorded a little bit. And Ann Harrison, thank you. I appreciate seeing you. And you say you got to go, but this is recorded, so we'll see you in a bit. And thank you for joining in. And so I didn't know anybody in that crowd. I didn't know the topic yet. I was aware there was a thing, but not really, in the sense that that's the purpose of the rallies, was to remind us of that. And the first one was in the snow at St. Michael's, right behind that, which is when I met Anastasia and, Ilona and my friend Svetlana, and these women of the 501 Battalion, who have become very, very, very close to me. And Svetlana is the one that we're still waiting for her fiance, Leonid, to come home. And we have been told today, Bodanov says that there is a good chance that there will be another exchange later in the week. So if you didn't hear, on Saturday, we had 175 defenders come home and 7 civilians be returned. And so that's wonderful news. But again, and I said this today with some of the families that I know, it's not enough. It's a game of sorts for Russia. So when you consider the amount of civilians and defenders, and let's not get in even to the numbers. Well, we'll do it for a minute. We'll at least mention it. Thousands and thousands of children stolen from Ukraine. So when we say 175, are we thankful? Yes, absolutely. But at the same time, it's a distraction. It's like, here's a crumb. Here's a crumb. Here's a crumb. And we're glad for every one of the ones that comes home. And I did get told today that although no one in my particular orbit had someone come home that I'm aware of, at least, and I know a lot of people, so there may be one that I get surprised by, but at least immediately no. And there was at least one family member that today says, oh, did you see this one though? I'm like, oh. And it was a Marine who was returned about a degree away from us. So I got to give my friend Natalie a hug, whose son is still in captivity, and Serhiy and his wife Svetlana, who I've featured in my live streams from the rallies before, if you watched them when I was doing Twitter Spaces Live. And Natasha, whose brother's in captivity, got a good hug out of her for a while. Almost got to see Rick the Ukrainian, Yarek. He was over at St. Sophia's, and I'm like, where are you? And I kept watching his live stream, kind of picking out the crowd, like, okay, what angle are we at now? Okay, where's that jacket in this stream? And then I turned around, and literally while I was packed with people, I just happened to turn around, and I see one little, about 5 seconds of Yarek saying hi and then evaporating into the crowd. So I didn't see him at the rally side. And come on, screen, stop turning off. Hold on, I'm trying to keep your comments here on the screen, and my screen goes dark. But I'm very sorry to hear about the twin brothers who were KIA over there. Oh, I did not hear that, Rainey, but I know other stories that are twin brothers besides that, so I'll have to see which one you're referring to. But the spirit of the crowd was unified, focused, and stressed. Every day that goes on is another day of stress. And why? Not just because it's time, but we are on the 4-year anniversary mark of a whole lot of my friends being captured. Guys who've already returned. When I say my friends, guys who have returned. Shaun Pinner, like now it is now arriving into Monday for me. It's 11:54, and April 13th is the day our brother and great friend Shaun Pinner was captured, and Aiden, these guys, Aiden Aslan and Alex Druke and Brahim and others that were captured. Today is that anniversary or that mile marker, whatever. I'll have to think of a better word, for that. So it's a big deal. It's not just that it's time. It's like it's kind of like how for years, I always remember that September 22nd was the day my dad died. You know, I was a week after I turned 14, and all my life, September 22nd was two things: it was my dad's death and my uncle's birthday, his oldest brother, and then that's all it really was. Until Shaun Pinner and the 200 Ukrainians also on top of that were released. So that rebranded the day as a very special day. And, that's how a lot of my friends are with their defender, families that are their defenders that are in captivity, is they know the date a lot of times that their guys were captured. In some cases, they don't. One of the things that's stressful about going to these rallies is that, I could also say sad, is that I often look around to see who's kind of ignored or overwhelmed, because there is sort of a bond that happens. And it's not that it's joyful or gleeful, but the camaraderie, the support keeps the spirits a little bit more positive, which is great. That's what they're there for in many ways. But I did see one woman kind of sitting off on a chair by herself and a little just remote from everything. And that's one of my habits, is to walk up to someone there and say, чому я вивчаю українську мову, тому що я хочу, зрозуміти це. Okay, I'm going to stick to English. It's why I study Ukrainian language. And why I want to be able to communicate to someone in that situation without a translator, bez перекладач. And це ваш син, так? Ага. І це 4 роки. Не. Like, not 4 years, just only so many months ago. Like, oh, and I asked which campaign, she told me. I was like, she didn't really know. She's lost. And she just kind of there with a picture of her son. Not part of a pack, a group, the bond of circles that I already am kind of a little familiar with, that you'll see in the rally that I'll put up tomorrow. No, she's very much by herself, and she knew at least to come out today on Easter Sunday and St. Michael's to be at the Defender rally. So that's why no matter how tired I am, no matter how stressed I am and just want to get some things written or anything else, I'm going to go. I'm going to be there with the people that I care about, and vice versa. We're connected. When I arrive, that's not new for them. There are people who beam the moment I walk up, because they know how much I care. They know from messages, they know from the articles, from the videos, from the interviews. They know that there's a particular American that never gives the fuck up on them, knows their cases. I have a cabinet here with Coca-Colas we had a little thing that went on last year where Coca-Cola was releasing names on the sides in Ukrainian. So there's Yaroslav and Dennis even. I'm going to tell you some news about that. There's a lot of names on those cans, and so I didn't just go grab names. Some people recommended it. I said, no, that's not how that works. What I would do is I would go to the store and I'd stand there and I would think of one of the defenders I was advocating for, and I would look through the names for that. And then, like Valery, my friend Karina's brother. So Valery has a can over there. Ruslan Shluha has, Tatiana's son, has a can over there. Ruslan, Kurmalev, has a can over there. But Dennis Zalizko actually had his already here in the studio when he came to visit with us. And I'm not sure if he got married or got engaged, but that brother, if y'all remember from the videos that we've done already, you may remember when he was released from captivity back May 5th last year. It's almost 1 year. He was the one on the bus singing, Oya luze czerwona kalina pochyliła się. And he just let out that energy. and we're great friends. And I saw today on Instagram holding hands in a ring. Isn't that beautiful? These guys are eager to reclaim their lives. And, Shaun very clearly said that their sensory overload is high when they come home, as soon as they get off the bus. In fact, I saw a great post from a wonderful friend of mine who is a strong advocate in the community. And he said, don't forget, and he gave us like this checklist about reality check of all of us who may want to go to the release point, and how these guys get off the bus and there's just seas of people waiting to find their defenders. One, that they're there because they've told that their guy is home, and others that they're not sure, and others that, want to have information from guys from their unit who may have said, have you seen my son? And they'll hold their pictures up. Have you seen my brother, my husband? And it's mostly guys. It's not only exclusively, for people who try to remind me of that in the past. I'm very aware that it's not exclusively that way, but it is predominantly that way. And therefore, you have that reality check. And one question was, how long did it take you to become fluent in Ukrainian? I am not fluent. I have a lot of issues with that. I am functional. I can get the job done, both hearing and then also speaking. I can kind of get around it. But no, I'm a little far from fluent, which actually adds to some of my stress sometimes, because I'm an immigrant. And I'm not an immigrant to an English-speaking country, and I'm an immigrant to a non-English-speaking country. There are plenty of people here who will speak English, but mostly no. Which means, sitting there over a nice dinner and going, how are you? How was your day, to someone you're trying to maybe date or something is just not easy. It's not happening. So I don't do it. I have friendships that are, entirely in Ukrainian, but I have a mix. So am I proficient in it enough to get the job done? Yes, Laura, I practiced. Now, how long did it take? So I would say 3 years. It depends on how you see it. I can say Mama would probably be the better judge, because when she came out of captivity and or out of occupation, sorry, in Kherson, that's when I really went from being like a handful of phrases to pull out an actual journal and started diagramming the language, so that I would at least give some structure to the conversation that I needed to master. I wanted to isolate my verbs, my nouns, my emotions, my numbers, etc., and diagram it very well. And I took it far more serious, knowing I was staying and knowing that I was going to further invest. And sometimes I think in Ukrainian when the conversations are kicked in enough, and if I'm saturated about it. One of the things that becomes difficult is that if how do I want to say this? If I'm sitting in a situation where I have been speaking in English all morning, watching English-oriented news, in conversations with the English, and then suddenly run into an only Ukrainian speaker, it's hard to get the circuits to kick in because I'm saturated in English mindset. If I wake up and speak to no one in English and don't watch any YouTube videos or any kind of things that are on, whatever, Twitter or whatever that has, English-speaking videos, a lot better. It actually increases fairly well. So if I wake up in a saturated Ukrainian mode, I'm going to stay in a fairly saturated Ukrainian mindset. And you have to think in the language to get really around that. How do you deal with people talking surzhyk? Arcadian asks. Actually, interesting enough, a couple of times when I have recorded film with someone who's speaking to me and I walk out and go, man, I didn't catch almost any of that. I am so glad that I recorded that, because I will have to break that apart. And for those who don't know what surzhyk is a mixture, a blend. It's Ukrainian infused with Russian phrases and or words, and it's often in certain parts of the country, especially in between. So like this, what we call the village level, selo, or sort of like parts outside of Kyiv. You will have more surzhyk than you will hear in the city. And also in some areas you will hear, like if you're down in Odessa, you will hear people speaking in Russian, And you won't really hear surzhyk that much. You'll hear like just straight up Russian, or you'll hear Ukrainian. So how do I deal with surzhyk? Actually, I'm kind of like Cajun. Nancy says, "Oh, oui." I said, "Oh no, I know." Yeah, actually, I have some Cajun French I'm not going to do today because I'm not thinking of that. But I'm from Houston, and I used to go to New Orleans all the time, and all points in between. And so, don't get me going on my Cajun. Someone just asked in the space. Later when these videos get published, none of your commentary exists in there. It's only at the moment we're broadcasting. So I watch those later, and I'm like, I have no idea what was being said in the chat. I don't know. Я не знаю. Я не пам'ятаю. I don't remember. Я забыл. I forget. We're going to do some language. We're going to try to increase some more language parts of this study. But did you hear that Viktor Orban lost? Let's stay on the script a little bit then. So I finished up the rally, took some photos and took some film, and then went over to St. Sophia and had no idea how beautiful it would be. One, I know that St. Sophia will be beautiful. The area inside, the complex inside will be beautiful. But I just didn't know what the day would be. And to have hundreds of people milling around at the stands that are filled with classic Ukrainian, everything from wood carving things for your home, boxes and or plates and or knickknacks, different types of I don't know really what you want to call that catch-all area. Crafts, those are in there, but you can go get a really authentic, and probably very expensive vyshyvanka, the traditional, Ukrainian shirts. And you can get a lot of stuff there at those stands with people who were great makers of this. I saw Terrell Starr was there, and he actually has these big furry coats that he brings. I don't know, he'll have to tell you what those are called one day when I get him to come talk with us. But in one of the big fields there that will be in the live stream that I ran earlier, and I will publish when we're done. I'll go over there and knock that thing live. Were my choir friends, like Viltsa was one of the many women's groups who came up and sang, while the young people and older people and the children all danced and did these milling around circle dances and fun in the fields to get their energy out, get their spring energy out. And they fucking need it. This was a shit winter. This was a really hard winter on the people. And it's very important what spring means. Never thought about what spring could mean until you see a winter like we just went through. Day after day of blackouts, sub-zero temperatures for weeks, ice everywhere where you don't even walk out during an air raid. Why would you leave? You're going to fall on your ass, break your hip, break your knee, fuck up your elbow, your wrist, whatever else to get to the shelter. Stay in the building and die in the building. Hide in the halls. You name it. Everyone went through that this year, and now spring is here. And Russia will start its attacks again at some point. The ceasefire, at least in the major parts of the country, of the drones and missile attacks, were minimal. But there were hundreds of violations of the ceasefire. We know there were deaths in Sumy. Russians lie. Russians love to kill. And so we didn't have an actual real ceasefire, but at least in the sense of having the drones and the missiles and the things and the air raids. I haven't heard an air raid in 48 hours, I guess, roughly. And I'm a person who studies PSYOP. So real PSYOP, not like the Alex Jones level and some weird shit people say online, but real PSYOP. And I know that the Russians, use all of the tactics, including how they release defenders, when they do these things, including sometimes they might be interested in having a missile or drone attack, but they're still going to throw some MiGs up in the air and yank, I think of it as yanking the dog's collar, so that all of us, pay attention for a moment and condition us, But at least in the last little bit, we had some silence, so that was good. The crowd had its festivities. I got to see some friends in there that I get to see a little bit out of town. In fact, one of them that I hope to go have some lunch with this week. Um, we had I met him in Lviv. It's a young guy who's a photographer, and he just happened past me while I was photographing. He was photographing. I took a shot of him photographing. He took a shot of me photographing. This was 4 years ago, right about now. I saw him in Lviv, and I kept passing him. And I'm finally, just as I was on my way out, I go, "Pamiętasz mnie?" Yeah. Do you remember me? Yes, yes. And had to reorient because we don't talk a lot. And I told him in Ukrainian, 4 роки я знімав це фото і Львові, це Opera House. Я пам'ятаю це. We switched to English. He speaks great English. So, I remember 4 years ago I photographed you in front of the Opera House. And I was glad to make that quick connection on the way out so I can build up my good friend there because, he's a young person. He's probably 21, 22 at the time. Now he's in his mid-20s. And it'd be good to see how his life went for the last 4 years because we don't get to see each other. Arcadian says the bald head guy. Are you talking about the Australian brother that was in the videos with us? That was Julian, who I hope to have on Substack here with us soon. He just got an account, and we'll see if he can come in and talk with us about his experiences here. He's a good friend. So he was out filming. He had like a serious rig too. He had like full-size Canon video camera with like the big fuzzy microphone and everything on it, and there were a lot of people doing that. So he got his footage there, and then I want to land about that so you can see the video a bit. But then I wrapped up there. Oh, we also had, as I was standing out getting ready to go in, get this, it's April 12th, and it started to rain a little bit, but it was rain mixed with snow. Like it's not really cold at snow level for us right now, and yet just almost like a strange, beautiful omen or something. It was hitting like snow, like, and the kids were trying to figure that out. So literally standing out in front of Saint Sophia, it was sunshiny even, but just a little bit of clouds passing by and a little bit of light rain trying to pass through, and it was cold enough that when it landed down, it was frozen rain and or snow like. So by the time we left, though, it was not. And you'll see when the video that I published later, because I turned the live stream off, which I hadn't planned. I didn't schedule one. I just didn't want to leave you out of it. I did a little bit of a walk around, got some additional footage of a band that was playing there, or a little traditional group, while some people were doing some traditional dance. And oh my God, do some of these young people who dress up in very traditional clothing, I mean, super traditional clothing, it marvels me, because in Houston, where I'm from, the closest you get to that are like Ren Fair types. And it might actually be the same emotional energy of people who would go to like a Renaissance festival in America, or and I don't have experience outside of the Texas Renaissance festival, but people who like to experience that. I'm sure like in the Northeast in America, there's probably some people who may do those things, but it's not really something that you see. But here, wow, like very traditional Ukrainian clothing, and I can tell you, this is not something they just happen to have that they just dust off once a year. This is something that's a little bit more common. Plus, I know some of the music groups here that perform traditional music, and some of the masters of that are good friends of mine, like Andrei Levchenko, who's a master of the bubon, the big traditional tambourine. And they basically play what I would call almost like a looping melody, so that the people can dance for a while. And the dances are not highly sophisticated in the sense, like I know people who dance salsa and things that you have to go through lots and lots of training to get those feet to do those things. And here, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's wholesome. It's awesome. And I had already ended the live stream because I kind of fucked up. I got 2 messages while I was trying to toggle the camera from selfie mode to external mode. And when I hit as I was hitting the button to do that, a message pops in. I hate this about the phone. A message popped in and it wound up hitting that. I go to that. I try to shut that. Wound up shutting the Substack app. And when I booted back up, I I'm sure many of you were still watching because it was still streaming, but I could, for at least the next nearly 1 hour, I could not see anything you were saying, sharing, asking, and or commenting on. And that becomes a little hard to kind of run this, program. I didn't turn it off because so long as it seems like it was streaming, I was going to let it go. And maybe part of your fundraising could be to store online where people could buy wonderful clothing. Actually, I have a little bit of an idea about those things. Thank you, Joe, for that comment. If I could have a reliable way by which some products that are here, T-shirts and stuff, like I know some people like my doggy shirt, and like my cat soldier shirts and some of those that I see. I would be glad to make sure that we can get those reliably out. And the reason why I don't commit to those things is I'm very much about if you promise you're going to do something, you fucking do it. And I don't like that I don't have a reliable method by making sure those items will get to you. So at least at this moment, I haven't tried to enter that part of things, but I will at some point. I think that it's really good. I think that for supporters abroad to be able to walk around with a really nice Ukrainian shirt or Vyshyvanka or a cool hat or something that you like, that if we could do that, we would make sure that you could get those items. And actually think about it when I pass those items all the time, patches even, that when I'm passing those items all the time, are they good? What's the word we use? Premiums. We used to call those when we were doing fundraising at KPFT. If you become a member at this level, we'll send you a T-shirt or some item like that. And I'm a little bit different than that. I'm like, if you'd like to support the work that I'm doing, you can do a paid subscription. You can actually go to PayPal and participate in sending money directly. When you send a certain amount to invest in, you actually get a little bit of word. Maybe not in and I think it's very important, and I hope you appreciate this. The editorial control has to stay local. I don't think it's right to say if someone pours down a certain amount of money, they get suddenly editorial control over the content. That would not ever be wise. Seriously, never would be wise. Because it's great when you have a good person asking that. It's not great when you have someone who has ulterior motives and or certain malfunctions, and I've already run into that. But at least knowing that you're participating in it, and I like to include people in what's happening. So if I give you an example, if I say I'm trying to finish the film on our Marine brothers and I plan on going to Lviv, I like people who've thrown their money this way to feel that they have a hand in trying to make sure that project comes together, and an included briefing level. Like we have a couple of members so far in the now 4 months of doing Substack that are at founder level. There's two founder level participants. And I feel obligated, and I don't mean in a negative way of obligation, I mean positive obligation, to keep those particular members very aware of how what they did financially for $240, adds to the equation. I have friends over the last 4 years without whom this broadcast would probably have died a long time ago. Because I run my web company and my media work, but it's hard to do. You got to do one or the other. So I kind of do it, pay the bills, and then go right back to the journalism. And my clients are super cool. They actually even throw a little money on top sometimes or whatever to make sure that the journalism happens. They're very aware of the work I do here. But you need to just go into your work. If you're a media guy like I am, without the war, then you have to finish your products. You have to finish your websites and your social media work or your graphics work or whatever it is that I'm doing for a client. And it's a straightforward, positive, client transaction that gets shit done. Thankfully, I'm in that kind of world. So I don't have to lateral over too hard from something I'm doing. But I don't have the time to build up the kind of client base like I used to. Like I used to go to big drumming conventions, PASIC, the Percussive Art Society Conference, and I would meet all my existing clients and the drum company that I'm endorsed by and I work with, and then I'd walk home and it basically, like my first year I had 12 clients and then 12 clients and then 12 clients, and it just kept being that way. And then eventually when I got into counterterrorism work, it's like you had to choose a balance between the two. So Same thing is true now. Like you either go be a media person full time and earn your money and don't be a journalist, or you go be a journalist and live like a pauper, or you sell out and you work with an institution that'll make sure that you have enough pay, but they get a lot of control in what happens with the content. I also ran into a wonderful friend of mine who is from one of those publications who actually got me published over into those publications at Kyiv Post. Let me just say what it is, Kyiv Post. And I got to see one of my friends that's one of the editors over there. I really adore this brother, and I thanked him again for that, and I thanked him again for the fact that the opportunity to go work over there was offered. I did turn that down. I can still send them articles, but I turned down an editor role over there, and it would have been a 10 to 6 job Monday through Friday, and it would have stifled off what I do that I particularly do best for my particular tasks. That's just what I do. I like to do the deep dive. I am a long time deep dive researcher. And I prefer that. I prefer being able to just sit there and obsess over data over, like, why do right wingers like Hungary? Because they can't wait to sign up to lose with Viktor Orban. I like that kind of work. And that job would not have allowed me easily to do that work. So I chose not to do that. And so far, although I'm still beneath the pay that I would have been offered from Kyiv Post, we're doing okay over here. Over time, I think we'll do fine. And that's my mission, is to basically just have Substack with subscriptions be able to be where you're the boss, you're the patron, you're the one that makes sure that this comes together. And when you have a paid subscription, at whether it's the $5 or the $80 for a year, it basically adds up just enough with it. Like this month, the studio was knocked out. I was stressed last Monday, and yet I got on, talked to you guys clearly. We had another person sign up for 1 year, and then another the next day, and it all worked out. The server got paid this week. Another $380 in bills goes right out the window. Like, it's gone. It's all paid. Outlook is paid for the year. Last month it was Elementor and some of the plugins and systems I use for the website. Many websites use those tools, and it's stifling trying to keep up with the costs of doing journalism and media work. I still have a lot of services I haven't restored because it's just cost into the money. I'd rather use the money the other way. So we got a lot of comments in space before we get to a few other things in here. Vichy bunker are quite pricey. I've been scoping them out for a while. And then Adamastia is closing expensive. So Vichy bunker, really good traditional one, it does cost some money. Let me see here, just so you can see what we're talking about. Bear with me. So I'll give you an example. This is Vichy bunker. There's one of those. There's my other one. That's my first real official traditional one. And then, so that's what we're talking about, these. And yes, they get to be a little bit expensive. All right, so about $80. They can get up between 50, 70, 80, 100, even more. But Chris is better at 80 a year or $5 per month. Both of them, actually. But the difference is what happens when a few people go ahead and do the 80. It basically is a stopgap, meaning 80 now means it's not money in September, right? So the $5, if enough people get to $5, and this was what I said back in when we were doing Twitter Spaces only, like if enough people got at a certain level, that's good because you wouldn't have some people going, here's a certain chunk. And money means something to everybody, everybody. Even one of my friends who's actually wealthy, he says, I didn't get wealthy by giving money away easily. He was wise with money. So both of them actually count, to be honest with you. But the 80, what happens is it just comes in just at the right time where it knocks out a bill where I go back to the work. I am very much the guy that if the work can just get done and the bills are paid, I am happy. I am a happy person. I am far less stressful. Where I'm just focused on, my brain is 100% into the content, into the information stream, into the studies, into the travel across this country to the east or to the south to find out what's going on, or even back to Lviv. I have some work we have to do out there, and when that happens, it's it's really it's just a lot easier when I'm not thinking about whether I can do it. I'm just doing it. Also, there may be, because of that, I may be able to say I can finally add a new Vishivanka to the arsenal of, because you don't want to see me wearing the same one every day, right? The black one, the black and red one, is the last one I purchased because every one of the ones I had was bright color, white and or the kind of off tan or color, whatever it is. What is that called? Hold on, it's in my head. Linen. Um, and then my other ones, I have some that are like T-shirt like. Those are about $20-something. Those aren't so bad. And those are like more like work shirt Vishivanka. So when I'm at the media center and I'm getting my work done, I would prefer to be in that. That is the way to go there. But also, when the funds are okay, it's a lot easier. Not simply to get like the like I told you at the beginning of the broadcast, the little peach torts for the lady downstairs who looks after me and the building. But just that you have a little bit of flexibility to do some good things that you can. When it's not there, you got to chuck all that stuff back, and you have to be there. But let me move on to what happened after the rally. So I got done, and also here's another thing about money. Now that I think about it, I took the small marshrutka, the little bus that goes from the metro station to my mom's house. I don't really need it to come over here because I can get to the metro not too far from my apartment without a bus. But in order to go see her, it's a 2 kilometer walk from the bus station to the bus or the train metro to the apartment, and so I have to jump on the bus if I don't want to waste another 25 minutes to walk over, which I don't care. I like walking. But it was 10 hryvnia a year and a half ago, which is about 25 cents. So it's about roughly often about 40, not always. In fact, I'd have to look at the current money map, around 40 hryvnia to the dollar, approximately. So that's your metric. So 10 hryvnia became 15 hryvnia. And now with fuel, and I knew this was coming, with fuel, I'm going through my coins, and I only use cards so that I can really track every dollar ever spent. I'd like to. That's what I do at the year. In the year, I look at everything that was spent. How much did I spend on coffee? What did I spend at the grocery store? What did I spend on taxis? And if it's in cash, you can't tell, and I don't like that. I'm very much not like that. I like to be able to see exactly how things were so I can get those things done. And the bus is coins or some sort of money. So now it's 20 hryvnia. It's twice what it was a couple years ago. And it's about 50 cents, which is really good. Like in America, no one could really do that. And I don't know what the fee is in Houston or Chicago, New York for those items, but it's lower here, yes, but it's going up. And it's not about what it's doing to me. It's a way in which I see what it does to the budgets of the people in front of me. Are they getting more in their income? Because Ukrainian incomes are not good. I mean, maybe for some people, but for a lot, I am sometimes stunned at how little they can really get paid in certain tasks, and then have to. You look at the price of food; it's not cheap. I mean, it's really. I go to the grocery store all the time and choose not to do things that I'm inclined to want to have. No, 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 no. I see the price and I'm like, why would I spend that? Like, let me go over here and figure out another plan and method to get fed and stay healthy, no less, because I don't do fast food type thing. There is a little bit of a fast food ability around here, and it's a little bit of a status thing for young people to go to KFC or McDonald's, which is really the only two outside brands that you guys would know. There's not a lot of it. I can't think of another outside brand that's here. But money adding up for Ukrainian incomes is really a big deal. And also fuel rates are not something that Donald Trump's fucking up for Americans only. He's fucking it up for everybody, right? Give me a minute. I want to read through some of these comments. I don't want to address this fashionable as Oleg Skripka, who actually goes to fashion shows. In fact, I don't think our friend Adam here who's watching is saying that. And bro, none of us can quite keep up with the awesomeness of the fashion of my friend Oleg Skripka. And I love Oleg Skripka. I love him as a friend. He has become a good, funny friend of mine. He's a great, great, great guy. I really love him. I'm friends with his son as well, who's in the army. and Roman. And Oleg is having a really great event this week. I at least hope to go, but it'll be entirely in Ukrainian, so I'm hoping to film it so I can at least translate it later. Where he's talking about how, it's like I wouldn't say it's a meditation moment, but he's going to be leading instead of a concert, he's going to be doing like a really introspective workshop on this week, and I really hope to go. I just haven't heard back, and if I know Oleg, he'll be like, of course. If I've learned anything about him, just keep the cameras charged, because at any moment you're going to go film. And I have a lot of concerts with him that I have not done anything more than editing one particular clip, and then I just, I would rather film it and have it in the can. Avoid PayPal, it's corrupt and a ripoff. Peter Thiel needed to avoid it if companies needed to avoid it possible. I don't disagree. But a lot of them are that way. Venmo and all those other companies are passing on your information. They're compromised in that capacity, so you have to just decide what it is that takes care of the people in front of you. Here, again, on a transparent level, I think that having a straightforward subscription is fair, because then essentially you're subscribed to the content. Your subscription helps pay someone who is dedicated 100% of my time, and it's true for Shaun Pinner and some other people as well. 100% of our time is dedicated to creating the content for you, and very customized. And same thing true for a lot of the voices that are our various expert class who've come off of television. Whether they be Frank Figluzzi or Glenn Kirshner or Olivia Troy, Michael Fanone, Sergeant Gunnell. These guys are like, a few others are saying that they're not really here for the funds and the content, but if they're here making content for you and they're putting that time into it, it's really important to be able to recognize what that does. And I want to see these headlines. Do we have information on? Yeah, I'm still saying that the projections for Hungary are that Viktor Orban has lost. But the fact that you pay in your subscription helps someone like me, and there's a few others, who have this, that they're really focused on that content 100% of the time, and your patronage helps them get that stuff done. And I think it's really, really invaluable. And also, I was a paper boy. I was successful enough at my route that I not only doubled my route, I tripled or quadrupled my route, and I lost my route to an older person who had a car. He had a station wagon, and I could handle the burden of all the deliveries during the week. It was Sunday that killed me. I was a little kid. I was 16 years old, running around on a bike. That all I could do was put in maybe 15 of the Sunday Houston Chronicle, and my bike, literally, the front end would just turn up because the back end was completely overwhelmed. Very funny memory. But the burden of your own success, and I was a businessman with it. I was out there. I worked every door. Do you not have your Chronicle today? And I loved it. When I was 10, I had a lawn mowing business. Literally every little service you could think of that was, that you could do for a yard is like $2, $3, $10, and had it all mapped out. But journalism is really in a quandary right now. We have manipulators out there. Like, we have one guy who was kind of, I don't know if people appreciate my kind of rawness of my language, but one of the ways I use this is like a chihuahua, a little bitch chihuahua humping my foot. That's the people who have no status trying to argue with me online. Like some guy who was arguing with one of my friends, a very pro-Russian type of, news site this week that kind of got on one of my friend's feeds and has very little followers, but pretends to be journalist. I figured out who was running it, and has a master's degree in journalism, no less, and yet is serving disinformation, which means you blew an entire, education. So real journalism requires, actually, it really, journalism is a very expensive vocation. It is even if you don't travel a lot, it's a very expensive vocation. It is, people don't know what it takes to go into news. And I think that the big outlets waste money. They come in. They don't like. I live in the left, what we call left bank or the east side of the river in Kyiv. It's more affordable. It's more like the class of people I grew up with in Houston, working class. Um, and it's just a lot more affordable. And yet, if there's an air raid right now, I have to go across the bridge, unless it's over here, an attack's over here. I have to go across the bridge to get to that location. If I'm in town and there's something that's suddenly spontaneously happening, I have to go 45 minutes to get to it. Okay. But CNN and BBC and these others, they live in hotels right there all the time, not far from anything. And, they don't call it news because it's olds, right? You have to be on the ball. You have to have deployment teams ready to go to locations very quickly. My friend Jan, for instance, who I think is about the best. I have a few guys in this category, but one of my friends, Jan Dobroncev is. You actually, any of you paying attention to Ukraine, you've seen his footage. This guy is the biggest, car hustler, and I mean this in the best way. Hustler sometimes has a bad connotation for someone like gaming you on something, but no, he has just got hustle in his foot. He is out at any event that's important at that level. Like he was at the Defender releases yesterday, and that requires both having your own vehicle, which costs money, including the sustenance of it, or having a fixer team or any of that stuff. You have to throw money at it. And one of the reasons why I was very glad to learn Ukrainian language and the fact that I am a polymath with a lot of media skill sets is that I don't have to do that. I can produce more content out of one human being than most people. I'm blessed to have those skills that I've worked on for many, many years. I can't say I did it because I was going to do this, but it's a lot easier to know I can do audio editing, video editing, graphics, logo development, writing, skills that I accumulated over many, many years and put them together and get more bang for my buck. But even then, like with real budget, I prefer the idea of having someone else edit it. I would love to just hand a chunk of money over to a Ukrainian editor with a hard drive and go, show me what you got. Here's all the content. I look forward to a masterpiece when I'm done. I trust you. I saw your work. You're fantastic. Please let me just step the hell out of the way and let you do your awesomeness. Same thing with other parts of the work that happened. The idea, the whole purpose behind NatSecMedia was to, instead of just Chris Sampson reports, was that we had always had people involved in the process. In the first filming that happened here, which was before I thought about being, straight up journalism, when I was just in my, terrorism researcher role. Those first reports that I did with my friend Andrei Kononinko, we were not trying to be a news team. We went out to cover it, and we happened to, bring your camera, of course. But then later with Alex Solomaka or my friend Misha, we were very interested in having a bureau of sorts, a very quick remote bureau that could get stuff done. And I'm not done with that. That's very much where we're going to have to be. But it costs money, My Ukrainian friends will often want to do some translator work with me. Sorry, that's in the bottom of my eye here. They will want to do those things for me, and I don't like to take their labor. Everyone has bills. And so a lot of times I just don't ask. And that means certain things do not happen. Certain projects, that I could go further on. I have a whole bunch of projects I've had, literally had a millionaire investor that says, Chris, yeah, cut the shit. Here's the money. Go get this shit done. In fact, I've already created all the business side here, both locally and, you're set. Now you just go do the project. No problem. I have a stack of projects that would be done immediately, ready to go. There's piles of notebooks here that are exactly in that order. Now, what do I do to not have that problem? Often I offload those offers to another news team. There are articles already out there for the last 4 years that were entirely because I passed the ball to someone else. Not even really, it's almost like subconscious to do that. I'll give you an example. Kyiv Post, the way I wound up getting articles at Kyiv Post, I didn't go to Kyiv Post to ask for a job. Never once applied to any of those places. Eventually, I wouldn't even say I applied when I got called to talk to them. But I was asked to turn my resume in. I was working on the resume, and all of a sudden it was turned in for me. So that was cool. Um, but what really happened is I was at events where I had just taken photographs of something, and the person at Kyiv Post needed photographs. They were there, and while we were standing, I said, "Oh, well, do you know so and so?" And I would introduce them to someone in the crowd that they didn't know, and that basically was what I mean. Like, my mission is not to have some brand thing and have my name all out there. It's to help the Ukrainians in front of me to take the fire hose effect of quality media and give it to the hands of a mom whose son's in fucking captivity, who just wants him to come home. And if I say, "Hi, here's Clarissa Ward at CNN," and just get the fuck out of the way and let her go be on TV with it, that's fine. That's perfect. I'm perfectly okay with that. It's not about me. Or I would be in every video for the last 4 years. And if you know anything about my content, I'm not in the videos. I didn't get on video until January. And that's because I was making small local reports on Facebook that were for friends only here in my neighborhood in December. And they were like, more, yeah, can you make it public? Public, but then I'd be on camera. Literally, I have screenshots of messages with me. No, I don't know, but my rules. Yeah, cameras for Ukrainians. I despise selfie artists. I really do. Actually, I have an attitude problem. If you haven't figured out, I have a little bit of an attitude problem. um, and it has to do with personal experiences, things I've seen that are just boil my blood. You know, having one person standing over Sarah. I'll just tell you who it is. Sarah Ashton Carrillo on October 10th, 2022, standing over a killed Ukrainian in Kyiv at Shevchenko Park, and like, this is Russian terrorism. And actually, Zelensky published that video, and that's how the person whose family found out. That is so unprofessional bullshit. Sarah's going on to do other things here. That's fine. I'm not talking about anything else. I'm talking about that event right there. That's why I hate selfie journalism. Fucking hate it with a fucking passion. There's very few people. Simon Ostrowski can do it. Simon Ostrowski of Vice did incredible reports in the first year. I mean, insane. I have all of those on archive. I will say nothing but great things about people who do it well. When they do it well, great. That's fine. You don't notice that it's Simon Ostrowski in the videos. In fact, it's kind of works well when they have the right person in the right role and are professional. It's not a problem. And I don't know how Sarah or anyone else feels about those moments. Maybe there's a little bit of a learning moment. I have none of that will have ever happened with my fucking name on it, because I don't do that. The video reports I did with KPFT, like at the death penalty or very serious rallies that happened, you hear my voice. Today we're here with Kofi Taharko, National Black United Front. Kofi, why are we here today? We are here today to rally around Francis Newton. And what is it that, you hear me, but you don't see me, because the person you see is the person I'm talking to. A sister of someone going through something. You don't see me because shouldn't be turned my way. And I know that there's a thing about, like, especially in local news, that thank you, Joe. I think that there are people who, in local news, their number one ambition is to be on camera. You can tell. I'll tell you a funny version of it here. We have young people here in Ukrainian media who are the same fucking way. They're really good at what they do too. I love seeing them there. I have a good camaraderie with it. But there's a camera guy, and he's walking. These guys think he's all professional. And then there's someone, and she's like, okay, yeah. And then she does her presentation, and it's a little team, and it's cute, beautiful. They're really great. I'll tell you that there was one that basically didn't know who I was. And so I was actually filming at a friend's event, and a local news team wanted to interview him before the event that they were filming. And so as I'm setting up, she thought I was like house staff or something at the location. And she kind of talked to me with a particular tone, and I kind of turned around like, excuse me? Yeah, I'm not your guy like there. I am my own entity. Thank you very much. And she was very much that, like, narcissistic, be on camera diva. It was absolutely fucking hilarious. If you watch my conversation with Alberto Willis the other day, I totally roasted a guy from ABC local Houston named Gene Apodaca who did the exact same fucking thing. These are talking heads. And I don't mind, I hope you don't mind with my attitude problem, to tell you what I really think of people around my industry. I think that some of them are absolute egotistical fucking scumbags. That they don't care about what the news covers. They are robots. They're perfect for, like, Fox News is the AI version of all of it. It's literally exactly the AI version of what I'm talking about, you know? Just complete empty garbage. Anyway, yeah, I have an attitude problem about it. So, Viktor Orban lost, which means Donald Trump lost, which means Putin lost. Are you happy, people? Do you got a little umph in your engine for the week, knowing that tension that you had in your belly? You know, he cost the election in Minnesota. Trump did. He set back the numbers in the Marjorie Taylor Greene canon. You know, and now he helped. Like, he really wanted to. he he really would help to. Hungary so much he sent his absolutely moronic child out named Donald Trump Jr., the one that I hate the most out of that tribe, to go out and make a little post today. And I despise Donald Trump Jr. more than the rest of them. There was a joke. I shared this joke with my Ukrainian friend yesterday. We were talking about certain punchlines, and he read this one off to me. And I said, yeah, that reminds me of the time when someone said, if you had one bottle of water left, and you were asked to give one to either Eric Trump or Donald Trump Jr., who would you give it to? I said, I'd pour it out for my dog. You know, that's what I think of those two. But anyway, so he sends out Donald Trump Jr. to say, I'm really, rooting for Viktor Orban. Yes! If that didn't seal the deal, and God bless the people of Hungary for actually knowing that enough was enough. Slovakia, do the same thing. Get rid of Robert Fico. He's selling you out to the Kremlin. So, America, do the same thing. Which brings me, before we get there, we'll come to that. Let me get back to Mama. I miss my Mama. I haven't seen Mama since January. I didn't get to go over during her birthday. We just had so many things going. She's not far, but it's a lot about timing. Partially because I could go by during the week. Mama would see me any day of the week. I could show up any moment. She said it today. She goes, come by anytime you want. But I like to be there when my friend's there, her son, my best friend. And so that means weekends, typically. And weekends are when work's happening. So if I'm in Sloviansk, I can't be at Mama's house. If certain things are happening, I can't be over there. But today, I got to go see my mom. And my mom was, when I say my mom, for those who are tuning in who don't know this story, my real family's all gone. My actual mom died in 2011. My grandmother who raised me died in 2000. My dad died in 1983. So I've been in that orphan class, or whatever you call it, forever. I don't even, and before sympathies, I don't have any regrets on that. It's my life. It's the life that I have. But I have this other family now, and my Ukrainian mom means the world to me, and she knows this. And vice versa. And so I haven't had a chance to go over there. There's messages always sent. But today I got on the bus and I said, I'm on my way. And I go into the grocery store and there are people who haven't seen me since I lived over there. And I get the, where have you been? And one of the guys who's now security, he used to do stocking. Serhi, my great friend, walks over and just taps me on the shoulder and just bear hugs me. I love that. It means a lot to me. Not because of my end of it. It means that for whatever reason, my presence in that community for 3 years before I came to the studio, which is where I'm at now, not too far from where I used to be, but a whole new environment here, is that I was integrated into that community. And also, I don't live in the expat circle of town. I live around Ukrainians. There's almost no one else around like me. There are no other Americans on my block, typically. I rarely hear anyone speaking English unless they're talking to me. So it's very much a thing. So it means a lot when I go to my old Silpo, which is a brand of grocery stores here, and one next to my apartment for my entire life here until a year ago. And so to see the people there and to be asked, where's so-and-so? I haven't seen 6'2" or 6'1" Yulia, who I think is amazing. She's a person who works there. That she's in my story called "Stupid American Doesn't Know How to Buy Anything" story, which hasn't been published, but sometimes I tell you that. And are you getting church hugs? You must be very loved. Yeah, actually, also. I have friends in that area that know me from personally living near me, but because I don't live there anymore, we're on Instagram or Facebook or Telegram or WhatsApp, and coordinating to run into them is not the same as organically living there. When I'm basically just at the cafe every day, and everyone knows to walk by the Texan who's in there working on his articles, and saying "suka" and "pizdets Rossiyской Federacji" and "Putin хуйло," like a good, the mouthy cussing in Ukrainian Texan. So they remember very well of me standing in the streets when missiles are coming in and drones are coming in, and basically yelling at the skies. Він дуже божевільний. He's very crazy. And now my new neighbors are the ones who have to interact with that, who are also very nice to me, by the way. We get along very well. So it's good to see my old people there. And then I came in and sat down and had an amazing meal. Mama gave me zeleny borscht. Я люблю zelený borscht. Zelený borscht is green borscht. It is a spring meal. You cannot get zelený borscht in winter because sorrel, the vegetable, is it a vegetable? No, it's not a vegetable. It's a leafy item, for the flavor. It's not available during winter, so you basically have a cutoff point of zelený borscht, October maybe. It's not really possible. And then now it's time. And so Mama said, "Would you like zelený borscht?" Mama. There's not as many, you know me, and this is zelený borscht. The best mashed potatoes in the world. My mom makes the best Ukrainian food ever. Everything was perfect. And then my friend, Renee asked, how long have I been in Ukraine? I came here January 2022 as chief researcher with a terrorism firm, and I stayed. It was not the plan. I was going to go quit all the terrorism work and go move and be a photographer and just get out of it, go straight back into my media world life. And then I came here, and I was here for the full month before the full-scale invasion. Flew out February 23rd, was back in 2 weeks, and basically minus one more trip back in 2022 to get more supplies. I have not left. I have been living here entirely since 2022. And it is home. Я вдома. Україна medium. I am home, and Ukraine is my home. And I am an integrated hybrid kid. And today, when someone wanted to bark at someone online and try to fire their guns my way, yeah, what timing, right? And try to fire my way, and they said, "Well, you're not even Ukrainian." Ask the Ukrainians around me if I'm Ukrainian now. They will disagree with you. They will mightily disagree with you. And I don't disagree with them. I just don't really put the title on myself yet, but I'm Ukrainian now. I'm integrated enough into what's happened. I experienced now 1,460 something days of full-scale Russian invasion, which is longer than the United States was involved in World War II. The United States was in World War II 1,365 days. Did you know that? And it's... In fact, I have a little chart on my Sampson Shots website that keeps me where we are in the war. Let me pull it up. It's day 1,509 for the full-scale invasion, 4,435 since they started their invasion in 2014. And for me, that makes it 1,463 days of war. Is borscht usually made with beets? Yes, actually, beets are one of the key ingredients. Let me also, for those who don't know, it is not soup. Never say soup. I like soups like borscht. Not the same thing. I don't eat soup. I eat borscht. I'm happy to live in such a beautiful place with beautiful people. Thank you, Renee. I completely agree. Like today with the broadcast, which I will publish as soon as I turn this stream off here in a minute, which I will do. I want you to see some of the festival, the Easter that happened. And one of the things that was very emotional to experience is that I have layers of this. And this was probably the best Easter I've had here so far. Afterwards, but I will say last year we had Easter, and we also had a rally. And similarly, we had a lot of families that got good news, and we had a lot of families that did not get anyone returned home for Easter. And this year, same thing. We had a rally, and we had some that had good news, and they're not going to be there at the rally. They're going to be out recuperating. And then we had people who did not get such good news. So on that side, it's not an easy Easter. It's not an easy Easter in parts of the country that are being shelled. Kramatorsk was hit yesterday and hit today. Sumy was hit. Kharkiv was under attack. Occupied territory is still occupied territory. So we're not immune when we're at an event like today, where we are immune from those realities. No Ukrainian is disconnected. Westerners will be detached. I can tell you that. I know, because it's been one of my. It's a fuel. If you want to know where my attitude problem comes from, it's from how grazing touristy types come in, and instead of having the right motivation when arriving, you can tell there's something else going on, and it comes out of their commentary. Subconsciously, they reveal their motivations. They reveal what they think of Ukrainians, or they reveal, any number of odd things that happen with them. But Ukrainians do not forget. And part of, like I said, about the festival of, like, what is Easter about in many ways? It's actually, pardon me, it's the more important Christian holiday here besides Christmas. Christmas is often seen, especially like in America, birth of Christ, and therefore, no, that is not really where the umph of it comes. It's in the idea, and that's what Christos voskres. He is risen. Christ is risen. Christ died and was risen. It's the risen part. It's the killed and resurrected. And if that doesn't have a value during fucking war, what does? And one of the last things I saw when I left St. Sophia before I went to see Mama today, which really surprised me, was there was a little batch of these. They were like little croissants. They're not really technically croissants, but they're these little breads that were there in these little sticks with paper. And they were all across the one of the little areas of land there in St. Sophia's inner complex that had been covered, much like you see the flags. If you watch what's happening in Ukraine, you will see that there are flags in Maidan Nezhnaleshnosti, and just like that, there were these little breads that were put all across this area. And I stopped, and I knew immediately what it was there. I could feel it. And there were names of the people who had fallen, and the names of people who died in the last year. Blessings for those people someone who arrived. What you could do is you could go up and you pull this little bread basket out, and you pull one out, and you put it on a stick, and you write the name of the person that you're trying to remember, and you put it right there in the ground. And I filmed that a little bit at the end. So I'll publish that once I finish the edit and put that in play for you. And so it was very powerful. Then I went to visit Mama, and one of the things that, in talking with Mama, there was a lot of reaction about what was going on, and plus having, when the motivation of increasing better quality Ukrainian language says not so that I can talk to everyone in my interviews, it's so I can talk to my own mom. My own adopted Ukrainian mom is so important to me, and it's when she asks me things, I don't want to wait for Edward to have to translate over to me. I don't mind. I'm glad that we'll be very clear, but increasingly, I know what she's saying. She knows what I'm saying. She speaks no English, but I speak enough Ukrainian that we work on the communications together. And she's why I actually increased my Ukrainian skills. Is because every day I was like a child. I could come in and I would, eat my food like a child does, and get my juice like a little child, and go in my work in my room and work on my homework. And I lived in a teenager's room. My best friend is displaced right now, and the three adults in that apartment now live in the children's rooms. and I was in the, in a teenage kid's psych room. He is not even a teenager now. He is now an adult. The young man who's more like a little brother to me is in America. Um, and the other kids also, they're too young to be in the war, and they're also in America. And so my friend also lives in the other son's room, and Mama lived in the daughter's room. And there's a story eventually will be part of that when um, because I have a whole thing I wrote out one night when it was a year ago, when I said 3 adults once lived on the overlay of children's lives that were displaced, and it was to tell us how none of us were where we belonged. Mama would like to be in Kherson, but Kherson is terrorism territory with the Russians attacking all the time. And the family that should be in that apartment here, the same thing, all from the south, and no one's where they're supposed to be. I mean, I'm at least in my own apartment now, so that's my territory where I have a studio here. I picked this place, so it's two parts. It's like I have a place it's actually not too bad. It's only 360. No one, I couldn't find anything in America like this, period. But I have one area that's essentially perfectly capable for living room, or I say not living room, like a bedroom. And then what is the living room? That's what this is quite capable of being it's the studio. Like this way, I happen to, thanks to Frank Figluzzi, I watched he change his set one time from one way he did it, and I did the same thing. I had totally built this to film in, not to do Substack. I had no interest in doing any of the Substack thing with you guys. Sorry, no offense. I wasn't thinking like that. I was wanting to say I needed a place where when I wanted to interview defenders or different Ukrainians, that I could just take one room and just literally perfectly turn it into a recording studio, and I did it. So what is the living room? In fact, I have I'm not going to really move my camera around, but I have a steel canopy I have been building above so that I could essentially, for very little money, put lighting up above, and I could have a soldier sitting in the room. We already did a bunch of interviews last June as soon as I got in here. And imagine being able to have a recording studio / place for $360 a month. What did I tell you about finances? So, so we wound up doing it, but so I'm not really, shall I say, displaced. Also, I am not a refugee from Texas, unless you consider the politics of America. I don't blame people for getting up and fleeing America as refugees. It's something I would not have related to until this last year. Know what I mean? Anyway, so. And then Viktor Orban lost, and Donald Trump is losing, and Vladimir Putin is losing. Now, on to business for a moment. Let's see here. What was the article that I popped out an article before I left today for you guys, and that's what I'll deal with before I go. And we'll be on this week. Don't forget that tomorrow we will have Steve Hassan is joining us. I need to put out the advertisement for that. I am so sorry I have not put my ad together for you guys. I will have cult expert Steve Hassan on tomorrow night. It'll be if you're in America, it'll be 2 o'clock in the afternoon for you guys. It'll be 9 o'clock for me, and we're going to talk about cult mentality and Donald Trump's sway in MAGA, and like, why is Tulsi Gabbard so weird? We're going to go over that, but I'll talk about that again at the end. Please watch the feed. We'll make sure that you know that. I think it's a great interview. I've done interviews with Steve. Steven Hassan has been on Twitter Spaces with me before, and it'd be great to have him back. He's very active on this platform. He's kicking ass over here. He's got more followers than a lot of us combined. So good job. But the article I put together today that's been on my mind for a while. And I finally got to finish it. Actually, I had to just brush off some old documents where I first started this. Actually, I'll tell you where it started. We had, if you watch my streams regularly, you know I've mentioned this before. We had 1400, well, you said BST. I don't know what BST means. Is that like bullshit time? Is that 1400 BST? I like that. That'll be 2 o'clock New York time, so 9 o'clock my time, Kyiv time. And it is one of the announcements. I will try to make sure that it's in fact, when I get done here, I will really put that announcement out there so that it's really good. But we had a metro location here on my line that was called Druzhby Narodiv, which means friendly nations. And one of my great friends who's in the army says, "Do you know?" Oh, Brit Summertime um, says, "Do you know what Druzhby Narodiv is?" You know, and I translated. He goes, "Right, but do you know like it's a Soviet term?" Really? Yeah, it's like friendly nations. You know, yeah, but is Russia friendly nations? You know, like no. Yeah, it's like one of those many like it's. He started pointing these things out around town on a regular basis. You know, in the first year that I was hanging out with him, and you know, and then the concept of we're brothers, and I've heard this for since I got here, you know, and so it got brought up again from a guy named Gubarov who can't shut the fuck up, a Russian who's like, you know, but we're brothers, you know, and you know, just this idea that we're brothers, and you know, it's the worst friendship ever. So finally, I had to tackle it. We are brothers. How Russia uses kinship as a weapon. The word brotherly is not an expression of love, it's a claim of ownership. There is a phrase you hear from Russian officials, Kremlin propagandists, and well meaning Westerners who have absorbed Russian talking points without knowing it. And you hear it in diplomatic salons and talk shows and cable from foreign ministries still navigating what they call nuance. And the phrase kind of goes a little bit like this: but Russians and Ukrainians are brotherly peoples. Sounds warm, even, doesn't it? It's meant to sound warm. It has been used with surgical consistency to justify every act of Russian violence against Ukraine and others for the past century. And the word brotherly is not an expression of love, it is a claim of ownership. And so take the time to read that article. If it's not, it's actually one of my shorter ones because I think it didn't need to be expounded with a whole bunch of background. But essentially, what does it mean? How is it weaponized and used? How does it appear in Vladimir Putin's discussion bin? And how do they use it in order to also mystify the idiots abroad who have these, but aren't they the same people other than language or culture? Like, other than language and culture, like, what? Like, do you know? And this is why I don't really blame. Like, I get people who will say, you know, forgive my friend or my cousin or my whoever just said something that might be offensive. No, no, no. I can tell when it's something said that's not meant to be offensive, like when someone says the Ukraine and they're totally supportive of Ukraine, they just haven't heard the explanation of why we don't use that phrase. They don't hear, like how different are the two languages. 35% mutually intelligible. Ukrainian is more related to Polish. They don't know these things, so I'm not upset when people have unknowing responses. I'm very glad to be able to address that. So that article, "We Are Brothers," is up and on the timeline. And I will sign off here in just a second and put the video from today's Easter events. That was the live stream version. I will publish that quickly. But then I also have footage that I will, edit down a bit and then put it out, which is even more expansive and kind of a better film because you don't have me just running around on my camera doing this. If you did get to see the live stream today, I hope you had some fun with it because when you were with us in that capacity, I actually, when we started having the people doing their zigzag back and forth under each other's arms in this spring event, where they're dancing and they build these big circles and then they weave in under each other's arms and it's really beautiful. I started getting in there with you guys in the camera on my phone and going in through with them, and they started laughing with me. They were absolutely loving that that's what I was doing. So you got to be part of that. Thank you for signing up both as free subscribers or just viewers and supporters and followers. I hate that term followers. Please don't be a fucking follower. Be a friend, a comrade, whatever you want to be, but don't be a fucking follower. I hate that term. Who uses that term? X? Is that X that uses followers? Anyway, subscribers, all that stuff. But we are a community here. I appreciate your community. I appreciate your participation in what we do. And this is a us thing. This is all of us doing this. Like I told you before, when Shaun and I talk, Shaun Pinner and I talk, and a few others, we really think about why you are here, especially on Substack. Like I said last night, do you notice we don't get hit with ads on these feeds yet? I hope we don't. I hope that Substack builds a business model enough where it's just us talking, where we go live with a video or an interview or an article or something, and we talk directly to you and to each other. But today, both Facebook and X were just useless, filled with ads of people I have no interest in, filled with junk that tells nothing about me, putting other people's messages on my timeline I have nothing to do with and not interested in. And here I don't have to deal with that. Here we can get straight to the point of the type of community we're looking to do and what we're building together. And I know that tonight I want to say congratulations to Hungary. It means a lot. There was a lot of stress here about what was happening in Hungary. People here don't want to have a negative relationship with Hungary. And I'm not saying that there won't be some conflict here and there with Peter Magyar. He is a center right candidate. He has his own opinions on things that should happen. He is just not interested at every level. It's pretty obvious. Not interested in being a Kremlin bitch like Viktor Little Bitch S. Dictator Orban, who has been just deposed. It appears. I think that's where we're at tonight. And let that be a message to Vladimir Putin. Suka, you're done. The world that was signing on to you knows that you're done. And may Hungary work to rise itself up out of the corruption model that Viktor Orban went out of his way to, destroy his own country. May that be done. May it be on the rise, and may they, take a good path out. I think it's really, really, really great news, and I think that we can have a better week ahead. And Donald Trump sent J.D. Vance to Pakistan to get his head handed back to him. And after saying we're going to cooperate on fees at the Strait of Hormuz, he now has threatened ships that are going to pass through there anyway. So. Good night, everybody. Slava Ukraini, Heroim Slava, и пиздец Trump, и пиздец Orban, пиздец Российской Федерации. Сука, блядь.